Hi everybody, this is Matt. Thanks for watching and welcome back. Well, recently I did a video on magazines for the CZ75 P01 Omega Compact, and a few folks noticed and said, Matt, you haven't done a review on that handgun. And you know what? I haven't. So let's get on with it. Backstory. CZ75s, if you're not familiar with them, they are legendary. They are great handguns. I can't recommend them highly enough. Anybody, well, no, not everybody, but the majority of people that shoot them really like them. They have a very unique design on the slides where the slide runs internal throughout this whole frame. It helps make everything nice and tight, keeps everything accurate. Lockups are very, very easy on this. Now, I still remember the first time that I got my hands on one of these, and it was years ago at a gun shop. I remember where I was standing, and I remember the moment that my hand got onto this thing, it was just like, oh, this is nice, and I would love to own one. Eventually, I found one used, and it was already set up with some very nice factory tritium night sights. So this has the Omega trigger in it, and the Omega trigger is different. So let's just talk about the CZs and what it is I like about them and my observations over use. First and foremost, great fit, great finish, consistent quality has been my experience with the CZs. I already love the fact that these have the night sights on them. I also got this set up with a decocker. CZ does have in the kit, if you want to carry it cocked and locked, like a 1911, they have a kit that comes with the new ones where you can go ahead and exchange out a couple of parts here, turn it into a safety instead of a decocker. But personally, I like decockers. Anybody that's watched this channel for any length of time, you know that my Sig Sauers and my Berettas, they're all set up with decockers because I just simply like them. So fit and finish, I've never had to do anything to this. Not one blessed thing except clean it, and that is absolutely wonderful. Fit and finish is good. I like the sight picture. Like I said, it's a natural pointer. One thing I should mention about the decocker on this is the decocker a little bit on the sharp side. And for any of you that have ever experienced a CZ Evo, the 9mm, what's the safety like on that? Safety is a little bit on the sharp side. So that's something that you're going to notice. But aside from that, I like it. Trigger's a bit different though. This has got the stiffest, the strongest double action trigger that I have ever felt on a handgun. I have no idea how much this trigger weighs. Best guess, at least 16 pounds, maybe even 18 or 20. I don't know. My Lyman trigger gauge goes into overload and it cannot read it when it is like this. Now single stage, it's 5 pounds. So it means that if you're going to carry it like this and you're going to rely on the double action pull, that you need to definitely practice. Have dry fire practice with this thing. Currently, I have a laser light cartridge in here. Let me show you here, back on the wall, what this looks like. So, the Omega trigger, double action, just like that. Single action. Single action is way different than double action. But single action, wonderful. Double action takes some practice. But there is a lot of safety in my mind that's built into having such a strong double action pull. Now the primary safety when it deals with firearms, it's in your head. It's between the ears. But I like this. It's just something that you have to practice with in order to be accurate with it. So has there ever been any trigger job done to this? No, not anything. What can I tell you about this trigger in double action? Feels gritty and it stacks. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the term, what stacking means is it progressively seems to stack up to get harder before the trigger actually breaks. So when you're pulling this trigger, it starts off like this, and if you notice a couple of little jerks there, that's the stacking that I'm feeling. Now, single action trigger, absolutely beautiful. People who have handled this gun, who have shot this gun, they don't believe that it is a 5-pound trigger. But why is that? It's because it's a rolling type of trigger. So you go to activate the trigger here, very, very smooth, extremely smooth, because it's a rolling trigger. Now, some of you might not know what a rolling trigger is and say, Matt, I'm not quite sure. All right, rolling trigger, simple to describe. A lot of folks will talk about a trigger and they want a very crisp break. Basically like they came up against a wall, and then many times they'll describe it as a glass rod that breaks. So you get up against the wall, and then as you add pressure to it, you immediately bust through. A rolling trigger, on the other hand, is the moment that you hit that resistance, you can feel it in motion, kind of rolling forward just a little bit. And as it begins to roll, it just continues to go until the gun goes bang. So those are the differences between a rolling trigger versus a trigger that has a very crisp wall on it. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this? For a left-handed person, the magazine release, not the most friendly thing in the world. So I have to actually physically break my grip with this when I'm shooting it left-handed, and naturally I'm a lefty. And I know people are asking, well, why haven't you changed it over yet? Well, I just simply haven't gotten around to it. Been doing other projects. Plus, still healing after a heart attack. So anyway, let me show you when I talk about breaking my grip. First, let me show you right-handed. Right-handed, easy peasy. Got a good grip here. Magazine comes right out. Not a problem whatsoever. Also notice how freely it ejects the magazines. Left-handed, on the other hand, if I were to try to activate it, first of all, notice I've got finger meat right there. So I have to technically break my grip and move it like that before I can go ahead. Now, that works. Notice the angle that I have to get to it. But I have to break my grip, which is a little motion like this. And sometimes, look, that didn't go too well, which means I can press on that thing really, really hard before it releases. So break the grip. That's one thing just simply to be aware of. This mag release is a little bit on the sticky side compared to a Beretta, as an example, but tolerances are tight, so what can I say? Otherwise, other observation that you saw right there, this has an extremely stiff recoil spring. So this is not for the faint of heart. This almost reminds me of a Walther PPK. A Walther PPK has got an extremely stiff recoil spring, hard to pull it back in the battery. And even though you have these front slide serrations here, if you wanted to inspect it, you've really got to grab onto this thing and pinch, because that is a very stiff recoil spring. So, not for the faint of heart. But that is something to be aware of, especially if you have trouble when it comes to dealing with recoil springs. But great gun, makes great for concealed carry, very reliable. What can I say? I like this gun, and this gun has been shot so much that it needs a little bit of maintenance. And the maintenance that it's going to need, I don't know if you can see this or not, but right up on the inside of the barrel, you might be able to see some copper. And so I've got to get that copper out of there. And that might be another video. So anyway, CZ75 P01 Omega. Oh, final note. It does have like a pick rail here with one notch, so you can mount a light or laser. Great firearm in my opinion. I really like them. They shoot well. If you ever have a chance to experiment with one of these things and handle it at a range or a gun shop, go ahead and do it. You might be pleasantly surprised. So until next time, I hope that this helps. And everybody, be safe out there. Thanks for watching and have a good one.